Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for cash tags. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research at LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Megan.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. So we're talking NVIDIA. We're talking big tech today. This is one of the biggest techs, biggest market cap in the market at this point right now, overtaking Apple. But when you look at the growth, the stock consolidated between late June and maybe early October, but we've seen another resurgence. Is your data still reflective that, hey, they own 90% of the GPU data center market, and that's going to continue to grow and provide this optimism here for investors?
Yeah, so this is a name, I mean, it's kind of crazy whenever you look at even like a 5-year chart on NVIDIA. It's straight up and to the right, up 2,700%. It's just mind-boggling. And this is the poster child for AI, right? This technology is powering everything from generative AI to autonomous driving. And this seems to be benefiting from every tailwind, at least in our universe, that we're keying into. You know, we're very bullish on autonomous driving. We're very bullish on data center expansion, and all of these things. NVIDIA is driving that growth. And so whenever we look at this name, you know, this chart I think is really reflective of kind of what is powering NVIDIA right now. You can see all of these other major big tech players increasing CapEx spend, and the majority of the market share, like you just mentioned, is going to NVIDIA. Additional points in our data suggest that NVIDIA is only continuing to grow its dominance. When we look at web visits, which for us, you know, could signal some future growth interest, and that's probably the best metric that we can look to in terms of B2B and things like that. And we see NVIDIA outpacing all other, I'll put air quotes around, peers. And so this piece of the pie, at least in our data, just continues to grow, and that CapEx spend from major tech players continues to grow. So while NVIDIA is trading at enormously high levels, you can kind of see why the storyline makes sense.
So Megan, what about some of these other names that are showing up on the screen here? I saw AMD kind of actually decelerating or actually in the negative, and then also Intel getting a little bit of love, even though it seems like the stock has just been beaten up. So obviously NVIDIA is doing its thing, but what about some of these other players within this space? How can they capture a little bit of this enthusiasm that NVIDIA has enjoyed over the last year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, whenever we look at that, I think that one thing to note whenever you're looking at the Intel versus the AMD is that Intel is growing from a very low bar, and AMD we've actually seen some really nice growth from, at least in consumer interest. If we were to rank these names, we would put AMD in second place, and this is one of those that we're watching as the next closest alternative to companies who are looking to, beef up their AI offerings, but maybe they can't get their hands on NVIDIA technology. We see a lot of them turning to AMD, and we know AMD has some really competent products in its pipeline as well. So I would say we see a little bit of a pullback in AMD, but at large, it's coming from a place of a higher bar and higher mention volume, higher consumer enthusiasm and happiness levels as well. So second place certainly is AMD, but really for us, increasingly the story is somehow NVIDIA is still continuing to expand its dominance, and still, this is the number one player, and it's not even close.
Yeah, so growth rates last quarter, data center jumped over 150%. Now, we know that those growth rates aren't sustainable moving forward, Megan. And then also on your chart, the big tech companies that are putting up big CapEx numbers to get ahead of the game as far as investments, and NVIDIA is the winner in that realm. But eventually, we'll start to see a pullback in those type of numbers. Is this where, hey, maybe some of the big tech names will start to pull back, but then you've got a big total addressable market where other companies start getting in, where they start needing the chips? Is that going to be able to offset maybe after 2025 that, as far as your data goes, that maybe we'll see a little bit of semblance or normality here as far as growth rates go?
That's really tough to say, because I feel like if you were to look back at our conversations on NVIDIA at any point over the last year, it would be these levels, the stock, it's getting a little frothy. I mean, how many times have we used the word frothy to whenever we're talking about NVIDIA? And yet again, we're looking at its stock near all-time highs, and we're looking at growth rates that continue to impress and continue to surpass expectations, even though they're coming from a point of previously really high growth rates. So I think that this is a name that is in all of the right areas, and I think growth potentially is exponential, even beyond what we can imagine looking forward. So I don't know. This is just a name that for us, we're not anywhere close to betting against long term. I think if you look back over the last couple of years, anytime that you saw a pullback or you saw some type of uncertainty related to this name, the company was able to release technology that was even better and even, boost demand even higher. There's constantly going to be a demand, even from a lot of these really large tech players, to continue to update, to continue to, have the next best technology. And right now, NVIDIA is the next best technology. So we'll have to take a look and see how things shake out in a year or so. But it's tough to say from here that NVIDIA is, at the peak. I don't know.
Yep, we got 12 days till that big big earnings event. Stock up nearly 200%. Megan, would you guys be buyers here according to your data?
That I think that you could justify being a buyer here. We'll have to look and see how things shake out leading up into earnings. I know that NVIDIA has a history of running up into earnings, and so we could certainly expect to see some bullish momentum heading into that event. Wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of a pullback on earnings if growth isn't just out of the ballpark, but we would certainly be a buyer of dips on any pullbacks.
All right, great stuff, great data as always. Megan, have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research at LikeFolio, breaking down, not surprising, KG, getting positive data out of Megan and the team at LikeFolio.